Oh, look at that. It's me. It's my face. And what a face it is. Huh? Hello, welcome. Well, it's slightly early, but you know, I'm here. I'm doing this. I work on my own damn schedule. Welcome to Coffee and Video Games with me, Jason Rivers, the Restart Collective. The new, old, weekly chat about video games where I start with a topic and then we just see where it goes. Just let my crazy, unfocused brain do the rest. Let's bring that down there. I don't know what to do about this sunlight, man. I don't know what to do about it. Like, get a light bulb for this room, I guess, and close the curtains. It's still too cheap to buy a light bulb. Winter is coming. I'm gonna need one soon in here. So it's so bright, isn't it? And it actually is sunny today. And yeah, I don't know what to do about that sunlight. But hey, it obscures some of my features, which is probably good. Yeah, I know. I just had an experience, man. I just had an experience. I know I'm getting old. I'm 36 years old, and depending on how old you are, that will be either very old indeed or still very young. It depends on your disposition as well, I suppose. If you're also my age, that could go 50-50 depending on how you view that. You view yourself, I suppose, or how you want to. Anyway, I was going downstairs. You know, I was brewing the coffee. By the way, here's the coffee. It's good coffee. We got it in the we got it in the South Sea coffee mug. I don't know if that's coming up there. Let me use my head to block the sun. South Sea Coffee, excellent independent coffee shop in South Sea on Osborne Road. I used to live right around there. I haven't been there in a long time because now I don't live, 5 minutes away. I used to like going there, man. Used to like going there. Used to like going, bringing my laptop, doing whatever, working on shit, having iced coffee. Good times. Yeah, man, that was good shit, let me tell you. Anyway, I was going downstairs to get the coffee, and I guess I got these dumbass slippers. This is the second time this has happened this week where I've slipped. The first time I proper slipped and nearly fell on my ass, and this time it was just like a sort of like a little slip, a little whoop, and then I guess I stomped real hard, correcting myself. Oh, my knee really fucking hurts. It sucks. I had to come up the stairs trying not to bend my knee too much because if I did it once and I had to sit down. I am getting old. I'm sure it's gonna take care of itself now. A little bit of rest. But yeah, that's my morning. My morning's been all right. I've been doing stuff for the YouTube channel. How's your morning been? If you're listening to this in the future, it might be any kind of time. Whatever time of day it is, I hope it's going well. I hope your knees are all right. I got bad knees from my 1 year of trying to wrestle and just generally sucking as a human, and I'm getting better. I also realised I'm wearing the same damn hoodie as last week. This is not a uniform. I have 3 hoodies. And they're all the same, but the colours are different. I got a grey one, a blue one. This is the blue one, and the black one. I have other hoodies, but these are my go-to because they're just plain. I like that. I don't like to think about what I'm wearing too hard. I don't want to make any kind of statement. I don't want people identify. Well, sometimes I got nerdy t-shirts and stuff, but I wear them less these days. So what are we talking about? Coffee and video games. We got to talk about some video games. Well, let me tell you. So 2 things today. One thing, a few weeks ago, end of last month, end of August, I finished a game called Virtua Quest. I want to do a little review, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But after we've done that, that'll be like 5-10 minutes, I foresee. After that, I want to talk about replaying video games. Why, how, when, what, all that stuff. Why do you replay video games? What types of games? What types of games are you going back to? You know what I mean? What are the reasons for that? What kind of games do you come back to over and over again? Let's have a look at that. I'll look at me. If we get anyone in the chat, then we'll ask them too. But first things first. So Virtua Quest, right? So for those of you that don't know, when we sort of restarted, like we used to do this as a YouTube channel, and it was just like play old games. It was just like a let's play thing, and that kind of is what it is now. I said it's on Twitch more, and then the VODs go on YouTube. But as a slight refocus between me and James, you see our little pixel men down there. I'm the one in the grey hoodie. That's the other hoodie I have. The plan is to get through. I mean, you'll never finish your backlog, right? But let's get through it. We both have these big library of games, right? Of old games. Let's play them, right? Let's not let them sit on the shelves. Let's not keep replaying the same ones, because that keeps it on topic, right? Let's not keep replaying the same old games. That's what I do. Plug in the Dreamcast. Play. How many times am I going to play Space Channel 5? A lot more times, let me tell you. So we devised the process in which we made lists. James could use my games because we come around my place to stream. I could play his games too. It's just a slight more hassle. He has to bring them over. Anyway, we made these lists of our backlogs, and then we put them into a randomizer. That Joe, one of our pals, Joe's created a nice randomizer for us. Looks like a Game Boy, beautiful. Picks a game, and then it takes all the thought process out of it, and we play it till we finish it, or until we are sick of it. And I began thinking, why don't I just apply this to my video game habits in general, right? So especially with the old game, like I got to a point where I hadn't been buying video games. I had enough video games, but the pull's always there, right? You always want more. You always need something new. Well, I do. James knows the pain more than even me. There's always that pull. So like, let's consolidate this. Let's make this worthwhile, right? Let's do this efficiently, and let's not just buy a bunch of old games, especially because I got fuck all money, right? And so I made a big list, spent a bunch of time going through. You get these videos on YouTube. Most of them are by the same person. So thank you, person. I'll have to look and credit before this thing is done. Anyway, if you search all Mega Drive games, right, you'll find this person's videos on YouTube, and they are like, he'll normally have like American, Japan, and then like at all of them. So I went through every console that I own, and even some that I don't, but I would like to own one day. We had a gigantic list of all the games on there that I would consider playing, that I thought that looks like something I've always wanted to play, or looks interesting enough to give it a shot, anything like that I was like, I would play that, for whatever reason. I made a gigantic list, and then once a month when I get paid, same randomizer all goes in there, and then I get a new game to play. I buy it and I play it, and that's for my free time, right? There is a few caveats to that, because a lot of those games on that list I won't be able to afford, so sometimes there'll be reproduction copies potentially, or like they'll just have to go back in the pile. They'll have to reshuffle, get another one, because I can't afford that. With the consoles I don't own, I'm hoping that, because this is for the rest of my life, right? My game playing days, who knows how long that'll be. If my knees go, that's one thing. My hands go, I don't know what will happen. So it satisfies that collector feeling, that playing on original hardware feeling. These are the things that I like, right? It gives me that something new, and so I can get through my actual backlog on stream over God knows how many years, and add to that backlog in my real life over God knows how many years as well. And then hopefully, like, if I get a game on a console that I don't own but want to own, like, it'll come up at a point where I can afford it, which, we're talking at least 5 years, I don't know, until that's a real thing for a lot of those consoles. I ain't getting the Neo Geo this side of 40, let me tell you. I might never get a Neo Geo. No matter how many of those games come up, no matter how many King of Fighters come up, we might just have to wait. And I know I can get them on other things. That's not the point. I want them on the Neo Geo. That's my way. You just have to accept it. So the first game that came up was Virtua Quest, and I was going to write on our blog about it, and I started writing it, but I don't know. I just don't really want to write a blog, is what it comes down to. So it's actually, like, I feel the need when I'm writing things down, you feel the need to make sure it's all accurate and like, you know, in this format, it's just me talking. People will hopefully forgive me getting details wrong because I'm just going off the top of my head. That's what I want. Minimal effort, but just the general my feeling of the game. So, Virtua Quest, I finished it. Currently playing Bomberman Wars, so we'll get to that in a few weeks. But Virtua Quest. So here's how I felt about Virtua Quest. So Virtua Quest is, for those of you who don't know, and I would not blame you for not knowing, Virtua Quest was a Sega-developed PS2 and Nintendo GameCube game. From 2004, it released in Japan. I believe 2005 in North America. I don't think it ever came out in Europe, which explains why I never heard of it before, like, making the list. And it's an action RPG spin-off of the Virtua Fighter series. That's kind of the pitch of it, right? It's a bit more action than RPG. The RPG elements are quite light, but basically what you've got there is it's like you got your little hub world. It's not very big. I said hub area. I should say it's not a world. It's just like one room where you get your access to your shop and your tutorial and your NPCs, and then you go into the warp thing and you go into your levels. And it's sort of all in like this digital world in the future kind of thing. And in the future, the internet's so good you can just sort of go into it, and servers are like places you can like actually wander around and like just do stuff, like really good VR basically. That's kind of the setting of the game, and the gameplay is mostly like a beat 'em up kind of thing, like a 3D beat 'em up, more so than an RPG. Like you've got your it's like a 3D beat 'em up, kind of a platformer. Yeah, you've got platforming in there. The levels are like, they're basically linear. They've got little bits you can sort of branch off and explore and find stuff in, but like the goal is very, it's just get to the end, right? It's not it's not like a place with villages and it's a level. It's a level to get to the end to, right? And it's a beat 'em up game. So the beat 'em up stuff is like you got light attacks and then you've got Virtua Soul attacks. So your light attacks are just on circle. I played on a PST. You mash those for some light attacks, and like you could use that in like all situations. Jumping, running, all those sorts of things. And then the Virtua Souls attacks, they are like moves that you will find throughout the game. You will find the Virtua Souls, which have like the data of all the different Virtua Fighters, from Virtua Fighter. They're long since gone, but they've been sort of preserved in data, and those characters will teach you one of their moves, and then you can sort of assign it to the triangle button, which I can't remember how, like, it has a bunch. So you'll have like a press, you'll have like triangle, you'll have like hold triangle, you'll have triangle and direction, that just any direction, triangle while running, triangle while jumping, triangle and circle together, which is your grab. I believe that's it. There might be one more, but basically, a bunch of like different situational moves that you can find throughout the game, and you learn them, and then you can customize your special moves. That's got like a meter that it takes from. It's a bit like a stamina meter rather than like a fighting game meter that will. Well, it's kind of a mix of both, to be honest. You use your Virtua Soul moves, and the meter goes down. You can build that meter up again by like landing normal attacks, and if it gets to like 0, the meter will recharge. So yeah, like a meter in a fighting game, essentially. Not too different, if not different at all, is it, Steve? So yeah, that's like your basic. And you've got platforming elements: jump, double jump. Obviously, you have a jump, right? And then you've got like, you have a block button as well, I should mention. And then you've got like a grapple beam, like a Metroid style grapple beam, which is on your right analog stick, and that will grapple onto like these orbs that are around the place in the levels, and they'll let you like swing and do various swinging kind of chumpy challenges, and they can also let you like latch on and like get back in on an enemy like situationally. Yeah, so I guess I'll get into that the nitty gritty a little more later, but that's like the basics of it. The story is basically there's hunters, so hunters go into the virtual world looking for data chips that they can basically sell for money. You are like a teenager, I guess, and you've got a pal who's like, if you go in and become a hunter and you get like a bunch of data chips, then we can he's got an air bike, and his mate's like, I'm going to fix up your air bike and you can race it. That's like the goal, to get a bunch of money so he can race his air bike. But obviously shit happens after that, and then your dad, who works for this like really important company that I guess like designs the VR world, or like he works for like the virtual government, I guess, I don't know. He sends you like a hunter's glove, and then the hunter's glove gives you like a little guy that follows you around, that talks to you and tells you where data chips are, and then that thing, you get like roped into this whole thing of like, these guys are like trying to do bad shit. I guess I don't really know the Virtua Fighter story well, but the bad guys are like that group, and their basic goal is to like fuck up the hub. Like they want to mess with the water system. This is going from memory. Like at the end, it's all revealed. Like, there's spoilers, by the way. They want to they just basically want to mess up society so they can like, that will let them like get in, like hacker, like get in there, and then they can sort of get a load of power from that, like in the chaos that it ensues, because like the real world place is like floating, and that will make it like drop down, and then they'll be able to get in the chaos and like get a bunch of power or whatever. And the way they're doing this is like the Virtua Souls is like a thing that's been created to give them, I guess it gives them like power, or they just I think maybe because it's the dual rules, like digital fighter things. I'm not going to dwell too long on the story because it's not the selling point of the game, and I guess you can play it yourself. It's not bad, to be honest, but it's not great either. You got a love interest and all the rest of it. It's all fine. Yeah, it's all fine. I guess I shouldn't spoil too much of it, just in case anyone wants to play it. But yeah, that's the basic setup of the game. Gameplay wise, yeah, it's actually not bad. Better than I thought it was going to be going in. It starts kind of slow when you don't have many Virtua Souls, because your light attacks are just very boring to just keep doing, the same. And it's kind of a clunky, not a clunky, but like a stiff game, I would say. It's kind of a stiff experience overall. Your moves have a kind of stiffness to them. But the thing that you'll find like earlier on is finding like the Virtua Souls, those fights with like, you have to like fight the guy, and then when you beat them you get the move. So I guess you fight Akira first, and it's like a story one that you have to fight. Those fights are actually way more like interesting, and then you'll end up you sort of end up getting like those one-on-one situations. Even like the bosses can be a bit more interesting. There's some more mechanics as well, one where you can slow down time with your meter, and then later on you'll be able to like use some of your life to let a Virtua Soul do like a kind of big AoE move as well. But those one-on-one fights are like, they're the highlight for me. A lot of it basically boils down to you run around, because it's like a 3D world. You can run around, try and bait out their attacks, and then when their attack chain finishes, that's like your chance to strike. And it's quite fun at first, especially like, it's always fun finding a Virtua Soul, and the game's quite replayable in that sense, because you want to go back to the levels and find the Virtua Souls, and it's kind of got this loop. So you'll find only level 1 Virtua Souls initially, and then there's up to level 3, there's level 2 and level 3, and they're obviously like better. But to get like some other Virtua Souls will be locked behind needing a level 2 skill, and some of them will need to be like a jumping skill, because the thing will be floating up there that you have to hit to get the Virtua Soul. So it's got that kind of go back to the level and find stuff like gameplay hook. So that's quite fun, and like learning how to like, you can actually combo all those different bits and bobs together. It's quite fun initially. What I found is, as the game went on, as you got into the later stages, I started to rely more and more, especially when there was big groups of enemies. I started to rely more and more on like the same techniques. You know, a lot of it was opening them up with jumping attacks and then like getting them with a virtual soul move that does a lot of damage, because you're kind of trying to manage the meter. You know, you're trying to keep the meter topped up for your virtual soul moves, which is, you know, there's a lot of like pretty cool ideas, but I think it ends up being quite limited in execution. I don't think really fulfills all its promise in that way. There's a lot of things I really like about it in theory, but I do think it kind of, yeah, a lot of the times the sort of stiffness and repetitiveness of the enemies, and there's really not that much player expression for a game where you can sort of change all your moves. There's not like tons of really different possibilities with all the different Virtua Souls, I don't think. But it's still, like, it's a pretty solid mid-tier game. I think that it has a complete lack of camera control, other than, I can't remember if it's L1 or L2, might even be both, like, will snap the camera behind you. But that's about it, and that becomes a real issue later. The platforming is always, like, it's either functional or annoying. It's never terrible, it's never the worst thing ever, but yeah, it gets a little frustrating as a game to the end. Some of the later rooms can be, you know, they just endlessly spawn enemies a couple of the rooms, or it feels like it anyway. It's just annoying when you're trying to solve, like, there's a puzzle in like a temple level where it's not really a puzzle, but like there's a bunch of doors with Virtua Fighter character faces on. It's sort of hinting that you have to use a Virtua soul of that character to open that door, and then you'll get some kind of goodie behind it. Like, they're like walls you break with the move, not really doors, but like there's just a chamber behind with an item or something, whatever it is. But in that room is just constantly spawning enemies. It felt like they never stopped, you know, when you just want to like you know, you just want to go in and collect stuff. It was a bit overkill. There's a couple of bits like that where it became a bit frustrating. The level variety is pretty nice though in terms of its visuals. It's not the best looking game, but it's a very solid, it's a pretty nice looking game overall, you know. Everything visually is nice to look at, and the levels will have quite a lot of variety. Like, starts off with that futuristic city, but you end up going to like a dock, into like the jungle, into like a Japanese tile castle, like a Tenshu level, you know, some ruins, all this stuff, all pretty good. Yeah, so like it was a game that I played all the way to the end. It has a lot of like potential replayability. Going in, there's like these things called, I can't remember, they're called Hunter's Marks or something, or whatever. You need a level 3 skill, and then they're hidden in the level somewhere, and then there's like a final challenge you can do with all of those, but it's like a tutorial world challenge. So I wasn't, by the time I finished it, I wasn't particularly looking to play it again to try and collect everything. But I got to the end, you know. I got very frustrated a couple of times on the last couple of levels, but I liked it enough that I wanted to come back and finish it off. I will say that much for it. It's kind of a hard game to recommend, I think, because it doesn't particularly stand out in any area. It doesn't really do anything. I think, like, personally, I feel like, you know, there's a lot of missed potential. Like, the idea of that style of beat 'em up in a very Sega-y world, with, you know, Virtua Fighter characters, like beat 'em up levels that you can keep replaying to find new secrets and add more customizability and a really expressive gameplay system with light RPG elements, and like all of that sounds, you know, there is something there, but the way it's executed is very middling and just sometimes frustrating. Like, there's bits where it's really good, but it never really gets to the point where you're like, oh, this was really a hidden gem, or it's like it's so close to greatness. I wouldn't say that it's so close to greatness or anything like that. But, you know, it's fun if you're of the right kind of mindset. Whereby I am of the right kind of mindset. I'm a Sega fan from that era. My favourite console's the Dreamcast. Like, that's my era of Sega, pretty much just after my favourite era of theirs. You know, on a console generation, I very nostalgic and interested in a genre I kind of enjoy. You know, there's a lot of little things that make it worth my time. And if you are one of the, especially if you're like really cheesy, you know, questionably voice acted games of that era, well, you know, there is a subgenre for that, right? Then you'll like it. I think you'll like it. If you don't mind a bit, maybe a lot of jank at certain points, then if you're very much like in that mindset, you'll probably get some fun out of it. But just don't expect, you know, greatness from it, is what I would say. I enjoyed it. I'm glad I finished it. But it won't be one I run back to anytime. I won't be replaying it anytime soon. Is what I will say. Visually, it's quite nice. I just want as well. I know I said that a little bit. I just wanted to make one little point of. I asked Nikki, my partner, like, what do you think it reminds her of? And she said Mega Man, and it does have that Mega Man Legends kind of look. I've also seen online Kingdom Hearts, and I totally see that in the main character and some of the character designs for the NPCs and stuff. Yeah, definitely. And I got a lot of a Phantasy Star Online vibe as well, with the thing that follows you. It's very mag-esque. Yeah, it's got a mag feeling to it, and like even little hub worlds with the little teleporters, they look very Phantasy Star Online like. So I just wanted to, before we move on, transition over yonder. You'll see this is our tier list for all the games we finish on the channel and anything I get out of my backlog. You know, if I do it on the podcast like this, then I'll do it too. I don't know if James is going to do like a side project like I am, but here it is. I'm grading it like it's a school project, you know? I'm grading it like it's a school project. So that's why we got all these categories. I've been thinking about how do I want to grade these things. I was going to say stars, but no, I wanted to get very specific, you know? So think about this, you know, anything that's a C is a pass. It's just how good of a pass. C- to A+. How good of a pass? A D is a fail. You know, that's how we're looking at this. Virtua Quest, here it is. It goes in a C+. On our next stream on Thursday, we're going to grade the games that we finished so far before we start the stream. So that will be for myself, Wario Land, Mario Land 3, and Castlevania 4. And for James, that will be Yakuza Dead Souls and Legend of Zelda Oracle of Seasons. I'm currently playing Munch's Odyssey, that's why that's there, and in my spare time I'm currently playing Bomberman Wars, that's why that's there. So let's do that, I guess. Do we save it? Yeah, we'll save it. Save. Oh, restart collective. Let me just save that. There we go. So C+. There. So I think that will work. If I can just take this and put it back in, right, and it will still be here. Yeah, there we go. Let's bookmark that. Done. Let's do that. Right, back to my face. So that took up a good amount of time, a little bit longer. I didn't think I'd be able to talk about it for that long, but here we are. I could talk about anything for a very long time. I could have continued to talk about that game, but I'm a bit fuzzy on the details. I need to do it next time, like straight after I finish podcast, immediately after I finish the game, which will be Bomberman Wars, and I'm gonna finish it. I'm having fun, I will say that. I'm having some fun. I think I need to play it multiplayer though. But back on topic, the hardest bit for me, staying on topic. Here's a pen. It's not the best pen, actually. Keeps sort of getting a bit fadey when I'm writing. Let's put that over there. I wanted to talk about replaying games. So following on from our discussion last week, and Hugh was in the chat, and we were talking about like playing games sort of, you know, the right way as intended, you know, not save states, not all that sort of stuff. That was the starting point. And during that conversation, I don't know, I can't remember exactly, but I got the feeling that I wanted to replay Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on hard mode, which I'd always intended to do. I finished that game, loved that game, great game, enjoyed it a lot. And just like Remake, I intended to play hard mode. When I first finished Remake, I actually had no intention of playing hard mode, but then I did. because I just liked that game so much. I wanted to get the most out of it. So keep that thought in the back of my mind for a second. So Rebirth, it was always my intention. I didn't want to do it right away. I know a lot of people like did it right after they finished the game. I didn't want to jump right back into hard mode, right away, because it's like took me about 120 hours to finish the game anyway, doing almost all of the, not all of the side content, but 99%, 98% of it, I don't know, most of it, not Gilgamesh basically, that was available to me at that time. 120 hours. I needed a break. As much as I love that game, and as incredible as it was that it kept its quality up for the runtime, I wanted to do something else. Luckily for me, at that point in time, not to brag, but I had a holiday to Japan coming up, and that very much cleansed me. And that might be another topic for another time. The idea of burnout after playing a game so gigantically good that it consumes you for the period that you are in it. I know that James has that. Well, I think he does. I don't think he agrees necessarily, but sometimes a good game can ruin other games, right, for you if you're careful. Topic for another time. So obviously I was thinking about replaying games, and that's something I like to do. I like to replay some of my favorites. I often come back to the same games, some more than others. So just very quickly, I have in my head this idea of my Mount Rushmore of video games, right? I don't know why I chose Mount Rushmore. Too much exposure to American stuff, I guess, that I've heard this concept. My Mount Rushmore of video games is Sonic 3 and Knuckles, Final Fantasy VII, the original, but it's kind of a loose standard at this point for the remakes as well. But where was I? Metal Gear Solid 1 and Shenmue. Those 4 games is what I've always considered my Mount Rushmore. Now it's kind of pointless to make such a hard limit of 4 games, right, on your favorites, but I just it's just a nice image. I think because specifically it's never going to change, because that stretches over my period of gaming where I was experiencing it fresh. I was a kid when I got my Mega Drive. I don't know how old, but I was a kid, through my teenage years. The oldest game, or the newest game I should say on that list, Shenmue, 1999. So I didn't experience it in 99. Probably in 2000 or so I experienced it. But I was still only a teenager. I would have been 13 maybe when I experienced 12, 13 Dreamcast age. So this basically the period of time before I started playing guitar and got really into music for a spell, and also got interested in my social life as an adult and all that sort of thing. That was my golden age of games, where I was, you don't really think about the big picture then. You're just playing, you're enjoying, and they're sort of imprinting on you. So any games that I enjoy, now, they're going to be, they're never going to, they can't crack nostalgia, that's a very hard, I can always put games, I say Breath of the Wild, very likely exists on the same echelon. I think of it in the same manner as those games, but that doesn't have that period of my developing brain basically with it to put it into the Mount Rushmore, to etch it in there. I also say Sonic 3 and Knuckles stands in for the entire series of games up to Sonic Adventure 2, I guess, because I kind of all think of them as one thing in my head. One, Sonic 1, 2, CD, 3 and Knuckles, Adventure and Adventure 2, they're all my favourite to one degree or another, and they're all endlessly replayable to me, to sort of get back to the point. So point number 1 on which games do I choose to replay, they're just my favourite games when I was growing up, right? You get that feeling of familiarity, it's like a comfort zone, it's easy to do, it's just you're going in, you got full expectation of what's going to happen. You know you're going to have a good time. I can literally, using Sonic as an example, play any one of those games I've given on any given day, and I'll have a good time. And some of those games, like, actually, I think all of them in the right circumstances, I can play, you know, for an hour or two, and that's like a really nice, succinct experience. You know, for some of them, I would have just finished them. You know, Sonic 1 I can do. I know for sure it's like under an hour with all the Chaos Emeralds. I'm guessing Sonic 2 would be a little over that. Sonic 3 and Knuckles is between, about 1.5, 2 hours on just like a Sonic playthrough, maybe. Grab all the emeralds, not sure. Sonic CD, I don't have quite as much of an attachment with, but like, yeah, so it's hard for me to put a time on it because I have a very romantic idea about getting all the good features by getting all the generators in the past. I've never actually done that. One day. I've done it with the Chaos Emeralds or Time Stones, but yeah. So there's that reason. Sometimes is the primary reason, and I think a lot of the time I will replay a game because I don't know exactly what to do with my evening. Maybe I'm really tired, maybe I just don't feel like anything new, and I just want to experience something that's going to make me feel in some way like I felt before. I know I like it. The other, like, that goes for all these games. Like Final Fantasy 7 I can play, I don't play it once a year, but I could. I've played that game a lot more since the remakes came out, because to give myself context for everything in the remakes. So I've played it a couple of times since the remake came out the first time, and I just find I could jump into that game and play even just the opening of it, and that'll be enough sometimes just to soak in the atmosphere. But yeah, it just takes me back to a place. You know, it takes me back to a place. A teenager just soaking it in, man, just being blown away, and just the atmosphere. It's just a feeling. You can't really quantify it, but if you felt it, you know what I mean. You know, you just feel, just feel something like, like a sense of, like a homely sense, a comforting. This is right. This just feels right in this moment. And that's very abstract. I do think I can apply the Sonic game logic back to another reason I might replay something, and a reason I suspect a common reason to replay something, and that is just to get better at it, right? Just to do better than last time, get a better run. So Sonic. I don't have this as much with the old games. I tend to always play the old games the same way, but I will happily play the adventure games with the intention of like doing it better than before. Of using my accumulated knowledge over the years to try and put together just the quickest run, let's say through Sonic Story and Sonic Adventure, or one of the story modes, or just pick all the speed levels in Adventure 2. But just even getting the ranks, like, I love that completionist aspect of Adventure 2. Sometimes to go back to the Chows, but that's for the nostalgia reason, I think. But there's always going to be certain games that I think I'll return to, and it's less often. And I think this is where the hard modes in the remake and rebirth of Final Fantasy really appeal. It's that challenge for myself when the mechanics are so much fun that, like, it just feels good to get better for no other reason other than to do it better. There's not really anything to gain. It's just, it feels good to do. I think that's somewhat tied in with the nostalgia thing as well, because obviously if you're comfortable with it, you'll probably do a little better at it. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a good reason as well. That's something I do often. I said Space Channel 5 earlier, right? And that's one that I often go back to off as well. And I think that's somewhere between both of them, right? Because, I was thinking about this with Space Channel 5, and I had like a run not so long ago, a few months ago maybe, where I hadn't played it actually in some years. maybe 8. Well, some years might be extreme. I hadn't played it in a while, and I had a run that was just like, it was just no good. I just kept cocking up, and I was just like, what's going on? Space Channel 5 is a game I can pick up any time and I'll beat it, right? I will always beat it. And I was just like, man, I just cannot get this right today. I'm going to game over. And I just turned it off and ended up looking up, what people said about Space Channel 5. And it was one of those where everywhere I went, people were complaining about how hard it was, how tight the timings were for all the inputs. A lot of people saying that it felt inconsistent, or that some of the timings were just plain wrong, and it really didn't gel with my experience at all, because my surprise had been that I couldn't do it right, that the timings were just the timings, that they were just ingrained in me, that I could do it, so they must all be fine, right? I don't consider myself an elite level gamer, you know what I mean? I consider myself a pretty average skill at video games. There's some I'm better at, some I'm worse at, but I don't think I'm all that good, really, But to see so many people saying how hard a game Space Channel 5 was, is like, man, maybe that's what happened. Like, maybe I just never noticed how off the timings were, and I was trying to apply my musical knowledge to it, of which I have some. I was thinking, okay, maybe my rhythm is getting in the way. I don't think that's what it was. I don't know what actually happened on that day. I played it again since, because I had to prove it to myself, and I beat it like I always do. I got that feeling of achievement all over again, though, knowing that because it was just like, now I also know this game was hard, right? And I've tamed the beast, so to speak. It's a nice feeling, right? So I wonder where that sits as a reason. Is it just like a little ego boost to myself? Because that was hard. I remember me and my pals playing that back in the day, and even beating level 1 took a lot of tries. I mean, we used to trade it off, have a go each. And we were really proud when we got to level 2, and then the first bit of level 2, we just failed immediately, and we're like, this is impossible. And then something in my brain back then really zoned in my own time, to the point where I grinded it to the point that I can complete it, 20 years more, definitely more later, and it's not a big deal. So that's just in there. I remember, just as a tangent, I do remember the first time I got to the end. So at the end of every, if it's not the end of every level, but often at the end of a sequence of a level, they've got this. So the tune goes through the game, ba 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 ba, and so at the end of the sequence, it'll have that little test, and it'll be just like da 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 da, shoot shoot shoot, and you have to then copy it. Shoot shoot shoot. That's the game. It's just copying the rhythm, and they do that quite often. Just that. I guess it's not a late motif, but it repeats, quite a lot. It's very basic. Anyway, so I got to the end of the game, beat the final boss, and there's a big build up. It's all a cappella, and it's amazing, and all of the people coming out and ba 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 ba, and I failed it in that fucking last bit, and that sent me back to, I guess, the beginning of the level. I don't remember. It set you back far enough that I turned the fucking console off. I think it sent you back to the save at the start of the level. Oh man, I was so angry, dude. I was like, I beat it. Sure. And then I failed on the very last thing, and it's the easiest thing to do. That always stays with me. Every time I get to that bit, I'm stressed out to this day, despite the fact that every single time I played it since, I got it completely fine. Every single time I got it completely fine. Yet there's still that anxiety that I'm going to cock it up right at the end. Because you only get one shot at that. No matter how easy it is, you only have to be a split second off, apparently, and you're doomed. Space Channel 5 brings me back to one of its sort of sister games on the Dreamcast. I like to think of it as that. I really like musical games. games with a sense of style, and in that way, sometimes they don't have to be that deep. And Rez is one such game. So I don't replay Rez as much as Space Channel 5. My first experience of Rez was a PS2 demo disc, I think. Man, I'm getting a lot of these junk, spammy things. I don't know how to get rid of them. We'll have to just leave them there for prosperity. But you can fuck off, Mr. Robot. Yeah, I first played it on a demo disc. I think it also had Parappa the Rapper 2, which is the only... Yeah, I used to play Rez, and that's funny. Yeah, lots of musical games on that demo disc. And I used to love that demo. Never owned the game until the HD remake on the Xbox 360. And then, ever since then, it's been one of my favourites, and I've bought it many times over, or any time I have the opportunity to. And I have it on the Dreamcast now, and I love replaying that game. I think I go to that game not for nostalgia. I go to that game for the experience. Yeah, all of I can't remember his name. He was also involved in Space Channel 5 though. The director, I think he's the director. He did Child of Eden and Lumines and now Tetris Effect. Like his games are like experiences, man. And I go to them when I'm in a very specific mood, almost like I want to have the feeling like I'm in a rave, and it is that. It's like it's wanting to be in the music. It's almost gives you. So I'm a musician as well, in case you can't tell. I play with my band every now and then, and like actually playing with people is such a cool feeling, right? Just that sort of togetherness. We like to just freeform a lot of jamming and shit, and it's just such a nice feeling to just just do that. Rez, I think, ticks that box a little bit, even because it's not the most involved game. It's just kind of like Panzer Dragoon, but it looks and sounds like a rave, And the fact, all the way the Symphonasia thing they try and do, it really brings you in. Like I feel like I lose myself in that. That's the flow state. Kind of hard to find, but I find I'd lose myself in Rez. It's like an hour, play the levels. I'm just in the music, man. I don't think any of his games have ever connected the same way that Rez did for me. None of them. I do like Tetris Effect, but sometimes, it's because it's Tetris. It's too much of a puzzle element to it, but it is amazing. Don't get me wrong. This is like if Rez is there, it's like it's a little lower, not much. Lumines is probably the second closest feeling for me for all those types of games. Like I feel like I just go into another world on Lumines. So that's another great reason for like replaying a game, right? Just to get lost in the zone. Just literally the type of games that are kind of trippy or just like suck you into a feeling or another zone, just to get lost in that flow state. That's because that's not nostalgia. I don't think so. I think a lot of the other examples I listed are just like a comfort food kind of way of doing it, like rewatching your favorite movies. And I think like playing Rez or something like that, I wish there was more games like that would just sort of suck me into the trippiness of it, But hey, that's why I go back to that one. So I think that leads nicely onto like the arcade, and it's a little not arcade style, or maybe sports style game, like the kind of multiplayer-y games. Like these are more obvious reasons to replay something, right? I don't even know if that counts as replaying or is it just playing. If you're talking about, let's say, a Rocket League or a competitive shooter or whatever, but maybe something more like a Pac-Man Championship Edition DX. I don't know, something like one of those, or Sega Rally, where you're getting the same experience and you're just shooting for a high score. That's kind of in that ballpark, don't you think? That's in that same kind of zen feeling, like the pick up and play. I don't know if that counts as a replay, or not, going for a high score, because there's a yeah. I think it depends on the game. I don't think for a multiplayer focused game, I think coming back to it would be a similar line of thinking. Like, why did you come back to this multiplayer game that you dropped? That would be a whole other conversation. I think Outrun might be a good one, actually, for both the high score. Some people might just want a high score, but for me, the reason I go back to Outrun if I ever play it is for the atmosphere, it's for the experience. It's not nostalgia, because I didn't play. I must have played Outrun when I was younger, maybe in an arcade or whatever, but I didn't ever play it enough for it to like really sink in there, like that. The same way I replayed old ass Sonic games or whatever. Outrun is definitely one. That's a vibe. I guess it's a vibe. So yeah, I can't think of really that many other ways to go about this. There must be other reasons to replay. I guess it's interesting to talk about a game like, because we talked about the Sonic games. So let's talk about the other Mount Rushmore games and see how much of that's nostalgia. So let's see. So I guess I would have played Metal Gear first out of those ones. Metal Gear really changed. All of these games really changed my way of thinking about games. Maybe not so much Sonic. Sonic was just my perception of games. That was the game I played, the first games I played, and the best games I had on my Mega Drive, which was my first console. And I didn't get new games on the Mega Drive. I had the same ones that came with it until I got a PlayStation, whenever that was. Metal Gear really... I'd never played a game was like that. Like, you look at it now and you think like it's because of the cinematics and the storytelling, and that is what it is. I don't think I could comprehend exactly why, but I just remember being so... The bit I always remember, and it's so stupid looking back. Let's just wax lyrical about these games for a bit, and then maybe we can come to an understanding, maybe not. But I always remember there's a bit in Metal Gear Solid 1 where Master Miller, there's two bits actually, that Master Miller, is it Master Miller? Yeah, the Master guy, right? And he's on the Codex, he reveals himself to have been Liquid, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, I never saw that. It's such a silly moment. When I replay it now, I'm like, wow, that's so silly. Like, but at the time, it really got me. And the other bit was Naomi revealing that, she had betrayed you on the Codex. It's kind of funny to think about. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's kind of funny thinking about how the two of the most impactful memories I have of the twists are the codec calls, right? Not the in-game cutscenes or gameplay or anything. They're like the static, not quite static, because obviously they have expressive models, and I really remember like he just lets his hair down, right, and I'm like, I'm Liquid all along. Like the most non-interactive part of the game, That's why I'll always love those codec calls in those games, man. Give me like, it's fine. It's fine. I can listen to Kojima dialogue all day long. Give me more self-indulgent Kojima. I don't mind. I indulge in his self-indulgence, and I love it. Final Fantasy VII definitely changed my perspective of what a video game could be as well. The bit I always remember about that, and that's always... This is a bit more in line, I think, with normal. I don't know if that's normal for Metal Gear Solid, but for Final Fantasy, it's the bit where you're in Cloud's head with Tifa, right, trying to figure out who Cloud actually is. Is he the real Cloud? What memories are real, etc. When they fall into the live stream together. I remember staying up way past my bedtime. I was in school. I didn't have like a set bedtime then. And no one was making me go to bed, but like it was a school night, and I should definitely gone to bed, but like I was so engrossed in that. It felt like it went on an eternity, but in like a good way. Like when I replay that now, I'm surprised at how quick it goes. That whole part. Yeah. When I was a kid, my mind was getting blown, man. Like I was lost in that moment. It felt like, sometimes people say, oh, it felt like it was quick, like that was a good thing. For me, it was like, it felt like it was long, like it was a good thing. I was just in it. It felt like an eternity was passing in that moment for me, but in like the most absorbing kind of way. A great moment. Shenmue is a completely... sorry if I'm saying that weird. I'm just caught in two minds about how to pronounce it. I'm conscious that I'm being... I'm recording myself. Shenmue. Little bit different, I think. A little bit different, because what was interesting about that game was just the level of interactivity and detail in that world. I don't think any game has got Shenmue beaten for that still, especially like considering its time, considering it in its time. Shenmue. We are British. Thank you, James. James is chatting to me on the messenger there, saying I'll pronounce Shenmue however I goddamn like. I'm trying to... why I'm getting confused is because I watched a video by this bloke Tim Rogers. I can't even... Tim Rogers, who pronounced it. Who said it should be Shunmui or something because it's a Chinese tree. But yeah, that was a completely different mind-blowing experience, man. That game. I don't even remember more than anything, what I remember about it is just fucking around, like walking around and being like, oh, wonder where this person goes, and playing games in the arcade and stuff, like finding the Sega Saturn under the TV and being like, how the hell do I play this thing? Because I never got to play a Sega Saturn before. Can I play a Sega Saturn in Shenmue? I thought the answer was no. For so many years, I thought that I couldn't play it. It was only playing it in the HD re-release that I realised you can win, not Saturn games, but you can win the arcade games, like Hang On and not Outrun, the other one, Space Harrier, in the raffle. You can do raffles, like when you buy products in the shop, you get like a little lottery ticket, and sometimes you can win the arcade games. This is mind-blowing. I spent so long messing around the house as a kid, as a teenager, trying to play that goddamn Saturn. Now I have a Saturn. I have a Saturn and so many Sega Saturn games. That dream was realised. So I have Shenmue to thank for that. Maybe. It certainly planted the seed. I remember, like, I know we're going off the rails here. We're nearly done. We're nearly done with this podcast, so we're just going to indulge my brain. I'm going to indulge it anyway. I wanted that damn Sega Saturn as a kid. I remember looking through the Argos magazine. I had a Mega Drive. I wanted the Sega Saturn. I think my uncle convinced my mum, get him the PlayStation. That's the one to get. He had a PlayStation. I don't think I ever wanted the PlayStation. I went for a period of wanting the N64. I had a video, a VHS with like, I don't know how many minutes. It can't have been a lot. 5 to 10 minutes of video game footage set to like a music track. Some kind of 90s dance track with like games like Mischief Makers. I don't know. Had a bunch of games on it. So I wanted an N64 for a while. I got a PlayStation. I wasn't upset. I felt very excited that day. Very exciting day for me. In fact, James, who's chatting on the messenger, if he's still there, I recall specifically being very excited because I got Cool Borders, Rage Racer, Tekken 2. These were my games. I also got a demo disc, a version of Demo 1. And not the version, I don't think, but a version, because you can't have enough Demo 1s with a demo of Crash Bandicoot on it. And I remember, it was Christmas, it must have been. I remember going to his house, James's house, and being like, dude, I got a demo of Crash Bandicoot. And he was like, mate, I've got the game Crash Bandicoot. What a time to be alive that was. What a time. We were living the dream then. He had Crash Bandicoot. I was very, very jealous. But he didn't have Cool Borders. I had Cool Borders. I never unlocked the snowman. One of these days soon, I'm going to unlock that goddamn snowman on Cool Borders. You watch. Anyway, that'll be just about enough for this, I think. Thanks for joining us. If you joined us, thank you for joining in. You've been a great help. You've been wonderful. I know that, yeah. I can't fool anyone. They can all see how many viewers I had. It was 1, sometimes 2. So I just say thank you to James for tuning in a little bit, all the way from Germany. If you're watching this in the future on the VOD, on the YouTube, thanks for watching, man. Thanks for watching my ramble. This is Coffee and Video Games. It's an evolving format. Hopefully, I want to have some other people to bounce off in the future, but like 10 a.m. on a Sunday, who knows? But it's a good time to drink a coffee. It's a good time to talk about video games. I'm going to come up with some more concepts for shit to talk about for an hour every week. Something I feel like we ran out of steam on this one a little bit. I was running out of ideas. I need to actually have some bullet points, but I can just keep rambling. I can say, who remembers the snowman in Cool Borders? Did you unlock the snowman? I don't know anyone else who owned Cool Borders 1 to ask this to. I know people who own Cool Borders 2. Tell me, reach out to me in the future. Did you unlock the snowman in Cool Borders 1? I want to know. I want to know the heroes out there. You can watch us every Thursday on twitch.tv/The Restart Collective, playing our collective backlogs. Me and James, who different James than the one I was mentioning. Very confusing. He's the pixel art man that's not me in the bottom. We play our backlogs together. Right now I'm playing Oddworld Munch's Odyssey on the Xbox. The original Xbox that was just called Xbox. That's a good time. And every Sunday, join me here for Rambling at 10 a.m. This is all British time, by the way. That's fine. Catch up with it on YouTube. I think it's YouTube/Retro Restart. I'm not sure. You're probably watching it here anyway, so thanks for joining, guys. I will see you next week for more of me. More of this. Cool Borders.